Oh.
I'm on it. You get us started.
Oh, wait.
Starting us late, Pat.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Hi, Bob.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry you were on time
No
there,
problem.
just locked.
Pull up a
I
chair.
tried that approach also, but I didn't know.
Yeah, we need one more chair.
There is one back there as well. Yeah. That one there. We're good.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right. I'm so happy all of you could agree and could participate in our community committee regarding the Starin Park Water Tower. I think it would behoove us all if we introduced ourselves. I know everybody, but I'm not sure everybody else knows everybody. I'm Pat Blackmer. I'm chairman of the Landmarks Commission currently.
I'm Jordan. I went to college here and graduated and working in the area still.
Kelsey Harold.
Did you live here in Whitewater?
I live here in Whitewater. I'm a member of Kiwanis as well.
Oh, okay.
That's my dad, that's my husband.
Hi, Penny.
Hi. Chair. I can bring you.
Hi, Lynn Biddy, 25 years resident, and
Yeah, of course.
one of my hobbies currently is working on the banner.
Well, I'm Linda Robinson. I'm on the board of the Whitewater Historical Society. Carol Cartwright, President, Whitewater Historical Society.
Dave Salsa, member of Tourism Council and 55-year resident.
Bob Harold, business owner in Whitewater, member of Spirit Tour.
And I do that too.
Yeah.
Gloria Bewley, member of the Landmarks Commission, former owner of the Hamilton House Bed and Breakfast on Main Street, and also business in Whitewater.
Owen Smith, Alderman District 2. I serve on the Landmarks Commission as part of that.
Hello. I am Taylor Ziner, the City of Whitewater's Economic Development Director.
Penny?
Penelope Owen, retired superintendent of schools, member of the Landmarks Commission, and fairly new to living in Whitewater, but have been around living in the area for probably 20 years.
With that, what I thought we would do tonight is I provided you with handouts. And I think probably one of the most significant handouts at this point, there is the 2-page handout, which has a very partial history of the water tower, as long as current physical needs and things like that, and recommendations for us to go forward, and costs. But one really significant thing that you need to look at is the structural analysis report from McEnroe, and that was done in 2023. And if you skip down to the third paragraph on that handout, you will notice that it says the structure is in good condition with some elements in fair condition. The structure is safe in its current condition, and the only concern at this time is the potential for stone falling, and the fence around the perimeters is effective at keeping the public away from the building. So I think that's pretty much a really direct statement that would certainly enforce anything as far as our recommendations for preservation of the tower. There isn't anyone here that really wishes the tower to be demolished at this time, is there? Your opinions would be more than welcome. This is why we're meeting as a community group. In addition to that, I want you to know, and I'm going to make this very direct, the city has already invested nearly $100,000 in the water tower. They did repairs to it in, I believe, 2022, 2023, to the tune of $80,000, where they did some masonry work that needed to be done. And then, of course, the McEnroe structural analysis cost $18,000. So we're pretty close to $100,000 of investment already from the city With that, I'd like to open the discussion. Carol and I know the history of the water tower. If you're interested in really digging down into the history of the water tower, you can go on the Landmarks Commission website. And where you see on the left-hand side, it says the local landmarks. If you click on that and scroll down to the Starin Park Water Tower, Ellen Luckett wrote the nomination for the water tower in 2015. And that nomination obviously was for the status of being a local landmark. And it's very thorough, very complete, and really has a fabulous history. Do we have somebody that's joined us?
I was just pulling it up so that we could tell people that maybe aren't here and they were curious
Okay.
where that would be.
Would you do that?
Yeah, which website?
Yeah, click on that.
This? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, go down to registration and go to 2015 to the Starin Park Water Tower. Whoops,
Got too excited.
there it is, right? No,
Go down.
down. Click on that.
No.
And there is the landmark designation, the nomination for it. And
Yeah, it's
if
okay.
you,
I'm just gonna share my screen so that Richard, who's joining us virtually, can see what we're talking about. I don't know. It just says Richard. Okay, continue.
there it is. If you're interested in an in-depth history of the water tower, it is all there for you to read. Hello, Richard. So do you have any questions regarding that? Also,
Yes, just
on the
basic.
website, if we can go back to that.
Yes,
together.
of course. I believe there was a question possibly down there. I heard.
What, and forgive me, what kind of protection or what kind of, I mean, it's designated as a local landmark. What does that do for it?
What it does is it really has a great deal of teeth in terms of what has to happen, what could happen to it. And the only way it can be rescinded as a local landmark is simply by the vote of the Common Council. Okay, so we're here because the Common Council is going to ask us for a report at their May meeting, and our recommendations will be given at that time. They have the ultimate say on local landmarks. So they could rescind it and demolish it, or they could protect it and we could continue on.
But as long as it is a local landmark, it cannot be demolished. Is that correct?
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
it is not.
It's
There would
not
be,
correct?
there would be
It is
a
not
lot
correct,
of
Well,
things that
you're
would have
saying
to.
unless that's rescinded.
I'm just trying, because he asked what protection does it give if it's a
That-
local landmark, and you never really said what the protection is.
The protection is that the only thing that can happen is the city council could rescind it. Other than that, it is protected.
But, okay, what does protection mean? Does it mean it cannot be demolished?
At
As
this-
long as it's protected as a local landmark, what does protection mean? That's what I'm trying to find out.
The protection is, it can be rescinded. I mean, at any point in time, the ordinance is, if you read the ordinance, the protection provides for the fact that it is absolutely protected. But it's protected under certain circumstances that has to be acknowledged and followed in the ordinance. In other words, if you wanted to change something on a local landmark, for example, the Bassett House, you would have to come before the Landmarks Commission to get approval for, as we did, adding security cameras. Okay, so now if someone from the Bassett House wanted to take that off the listing of a local landmark, it would have to come back. Yeah,
I'm not asking about that. I'm just, when you say absolutely protected, does that mean nobody can make any changes to it? Nobody can knock it down?
no.
It does not mean that, or?
No. If it comes before.
It means
That
that.
means that.
It
Okay.
means that, but it doesn't mean that.
Well, I was just trying to find out what protection means, and I still don't know, but
You
just
need to
let's
read
keep
the
going.
ordinance.
Let's just keep going.
Well, when I was on the Landmarks Commission, the way I understood, and then perhaps the ordinance has changed, was that if you wanted to demolish a landmark property, you had to go to the Landmarks Commission for approval. If they say no, we don't allow you to demolish it. It was my understanding that that's the protection. However, they could appeal to the city council and the city council could overrule the landmarks.
But that's getting beyond my question. I was just at the first level. Okay, all right.
Well,
Okay, let's not waste any more time on it.
It's protected, but it's not protected because
That's exactly right.
the council can overrule. That's the
No, that's not the point of my question, but let's just keep going.
And with that, obviously, there are other protections. We could go appeal to the Wisconsin State Historical Society Preservation Commission for help. And oftentimes they can help, but they don't have the ultimate say.
No, the state statutes indicate that any monies that a community uses for demolition of a property, if it's public money, it has to go to compliance. That doesn't, again, it doesn't mean it cannot be torn down.
Right.
There's something that they can do that's called mitigation. And sometimes that mitigation is as simple as, we'll put up a plaque. But it's another layer of things you can do to stop something, at least temporarily.
Right. Thank you. No?
Just keep going. I'll ask somebody after the meeting's over.
Yes.
I think I know what she's getting at. Can I
Okay.
put in?
Sure.
My understanding after 9 years on the Landmarks Commission is that once you get it approved as a landmark by the Landmarks Commission, the owner cannot change anything on the exterior of the building from the date that it's added to the list.
Okay.
That's how it's protected. You cannot, like if I wanted to paint my house, it's got to stay that color. If I wanted to put new windows in or whatever, I have to go to the Landmarks Commission to get approval to do that. And in their infinite wisdom, the Landmarks Commission will decide whether that's a good thing to do to that historic property or not. The exterior is the only thing that's really protected, as I understand it. But if I'm wrong, but it's only the exterior. I can change everything on the interior, and it doesn't make any difference.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I
And
would
then-
like to just ask if everybody has had the opportunity to see the letter and the directive that we got as Landmarks Commission from the John Waddell and the council. It went to the council, went to us. So, because has everybody got a copy of that?
I did not make a copy of that.
I just wonder if maybe that might not be a good idea because it specifically lays out what we're gonna be asking, what we are asking you to do as a committee.
Do you know what date that was at the common council? Because if so, I can just pull it up here and we can summarize it.
Okay, well, I can read part of it, but.
You go for it, girl. Saves me some
It's just-
cooking.
John wrote the letter, and it was to the council members, and basically what he said is that he was, as a city designated landmark with a city-owned park, kicking it to the committee with direct oversight. That's the Landmarks Commission. And we in turn then are putting together the committee, and this is the key aspects of the approach are as follows. Developing options, request that the Landmark Commission consider and propose alternative options for the water tower. These may include preservation strategies, partial demolition or relocation, such as lowering or showcasing parts of the tower in a museum. 2, funding strategies, instruct the commission to solicit and propose a fundraising and donations platform that could offset a significant portion of any restoration or preservation costs. Additionally, encourage them to explore how the $600,000 currently allocated for demolition might be redirected to support any approved preservation or alternative solution. This would also be consistent with the city's expectations requiring fundraising efforts for the library renovations and the WAFC. timeline, set a clear deadline of June 25th, June of 25 for the Landmarks Commission to report back with their recommendations. And that's what you're helping us with, okay?
Just to clarify, that change to May is no longer June.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
The Common Council voted on May rather than June. That was just.
Oh, that's right, you're right, that was
That's
changed.
correct.
John's
Yeah, that's why we
suggestion
kind
was
of got in a little hurry.
It was correct.
Right.
Yes, you are.
Or is there a particular reason for the
I'm not
urgency of this?
sure. Brian Shannon is the one who made the motion, including that date. My understanding is they just want clear direction after the referendum led to some confusion in the community, so they want to offer clear direction as soon as they can.
The referendum, which was voted upon, was very close. I mean, the referendum voted for, the citizens of Lancaster voted in favor of demolition.
I'm not sure that that's exactly what the citizens voted for. My view would be they voted that they did not want to see the city paying for,
Yes.
Yeah.
for preservation of
Which,
the landmark.
which would eventually mean demolition.
Well, unless there was remarkable success in a fundraising effort
Yeah.
of some sort.
The city has $600,000.
Right.
Which can either be used, obviously, for preservation or demolition. With the McEnroe report, and if you go, and Taylor, if you could bring that up.
Absolutely. What would you like me to bring up? I'm sorry.
The Landmarks Commission website. The McEnroe Structural Analysis Report is on the website. It's rather lengthy, but it has a lot of pictures. So if you wish to read it, it's on the very bottom. Right there. And that is the complete structural analysis that was completed by McEnroe. And in it, it has suggestions. Not only does it say that at this point in time, the structure is in good condition, with just certain elements of it in fair condition, but it also indicates that if there were to be any repairs or any restoration to it at this point in time, there would be phases. And they certainly have outlined within that the phases that could be followed and an approximate cost of each phase.
Has anybody reached out to the consulting engineers regarding this pricing? Because this report is dated January 5th, 2023, and we are now in 2025. And I can tell you the price of a 2x4 in 2023 is certainly not the same as 2025. So I think we should need some accurate figures on this, you know, based on the time that has gone by.
I would bring you back to the fact that the city paid for this and at the price of $18,000. And I'm not sure the city would be willing to pay for an additional consult fee. That would be.
You know, the city does not have a landmarks budget currently. The previous staff person did not plan for that. Something of that size of amount would have to be taken to the common council. My threshold to approve purchases is $5,000. The city managers is $10,000. So we would have to take it to the common council and ask them if that's something that they would be willing to financially support.
Well, it could do two things for us. One, I mean, if they turn around and they say it's another 500,000, I mean, you're talking about raising 400,000 versus another, 500,000 if that price went up. And two, it might buy us some time. I mean, if the deadline is May, we got to have to me, we have to have accurate figures. That's, I mean, that's like a dozen eggs right now are $7. I mean, seriously.
I picked up somewhere, I don't know if it was from that McEnroe report or where, that by 26, there was an estimate that the total cost of the repairs would reach 1.6 million.
Where did you see that?
I wish I could tell you exactly where that was. It was, I think it was part of the McEnroe report.
Yes.
I think if you look, I just did a quick search for 2026. Is this what you're referring to, the 1.5 million?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's rounding it up quite a bit to get to 1.6, but it's a start anyway.
So we don't have that when we got the first page.
Yes, well,
It does actually say that
directing you
that's
to
using
look
a
at that
5%
report.
per year increase for inflation.
It's
which
30-some pages.
I don't need
unfortunately
32
we've
pages.
got more than
Those
that.
numbers are what we're talking about right now,
Not-
that we should have.
Of course, well, granted, you see that saying phase one, if it was performed in 2024, would be X amount, so it's obviously not taking into account inflation. Not getting it started in 24.
Dave?
Seems to me that if you were doing a repair on your house, for example, you wouldn't go with one estimate.
That's correct.
So why couldn't we find people that give us free estimates for doing some necessary repairs? And since the structure basically said it's in good condition primarily, some in fair condition, I have a really hard time believing it would cost that much money to do absolutely minimum necessary repairs to make it structurally safe.
There was, by the way, a previous, less comprehensive study done. I think it was more of an eyeballing done by a Cornerstone company in 22.
In Sullivan.
And they came up with some rather similar numbers, it seems to me,
Yes, they did.
for a complete
Restoration.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is determine what we're going to recommend in terms of, A, we recommend the preservation of the tower. B, what does that mean? What does preservation mean? Does it mean restore it for $1.5 million to a pristine condition that will allow people to climb it or whatever, like what they, well, it's what they did in Fort Atkinson. And because I think too, we need to come up with some ideas about, and Pat's got this on the list of what do we do with it? What is the public going to get for if they're going to raise an extra $500,000? What's an idea? Are we going to market it in some way? Are we going to, utilize it for something? But there are levels of preservation, and the city seems to think this is an either or proposition.
Right.
We're either going to throw $1 million at it or we're going to tear it down. And that's not how preservation works. There are things that you can do. Dave mentioned one of them, making it structurally safe. And that's an entirely different thing to restoration at a level, say, that they did in Fort Atkinson. So, and the costs of that are going to be different. So I think, before we get involved in numbers, maybe we want to
Prioritize.
come up with, what is our overall purpose going to be in terms of recommendations? Because if we decide we're not going to recommend the preservation of it, well, then we're wasting time. So, anyway.
Well, has it been deemed unsafe by anybody?
No,
I didn't think so.
No, that's
Yeah,
probably
okay.
number one on our recommendation is the structure is, according to the McEnroe Structural Analysis Report, the structure is in good condition.
So was there a vote to restore or preserve it or demolish it?
well, because it also says there's a potential for stone falling.
Right.
Well, when you look at the
Masonry.
from the point of the city, it's, you don't want that. You don't want that because that's going to be maintenance, that's going to be costs. So the issue is, it is reasonably safe at this time, but then there is the next step, which is it stable so that stone isn't gonna be falling down, or the city does not have to put in continuous maintenance. And, you know, so there's that level. And then there's the next level, which would be, you know, restore it like Fort Atkinson, where people can use it or whatever, go in it. There are levels to this. So, and I think we may have to approach that indicates, you know, these are our recommended choices, you know, and that depending on whether we think we can raise $500,000 or whatever, you know, to throw in with the 600,000 that already exists.
And just for the record, I mean, the referendum, the vote was spend money on the water tower or don't spend money on the water tower.
Exactly.
That was how it was phrased. So I talked to a lot of people saying, vote yes. You're not really going to have to spend $1 million, but vote yes, because, the way they worded it, I think skewed the results. I don't think the results are valid because of the way that it was
I
worded.
agree with you.
It also was a phony question because they've all,
There you go.
they're gonna have to spend money on it one way or the other. If they decide, you know, unless they're just gonna change their minds and leave it as is.
Put a big fence around it.
Yeah, a bigger
Let it be
fence
there.
or whatever.
They're
They're committed to
34% to
spending
keep the tower.
Yeah, so,
56% in favor of not using taxpayer money. So it was really.
well, but they're gonna be using taxpayer money no matter what,
Yeah, they've
so.
already got the 600,000 there.
What was,
Right.
the point of the referendum was kind of silly, but anyway,
I think what you are saying about the levels of preservation is might have been what they said when they were talking about these might include preservation strategies. There are different strategies and there are different levels of that. And I think that's what you were saying, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I think it would be well for us to read that document before the
Absolutely.
next meeting to give us some information about
Right.
these levels. Carol, as long as you mentioned the possibility of us being able to utilize it in terms of public walking up like Fort. My understanding is this tower does not really afford us that opportunity. The stairs that go up are apparently not usable for a safe public use.
Correct.
Can I make one more comment?
Absolutely. You can.
Putting on my geologist hat, I was a geology minor in college, geography major, and the capstones on this are limestone, locally quarried.
Correct.
Limestone has propensity for spalling, which is the pieces falling off because of freeze thaw. There's something called a slip-off slope. The slip-off slope for this tower does not extend beyond the fence. The chances of a piece of limestone spalling off, landing outside the fence are pretty much nil. So it's safe the way it is right now.
It is.
Interesting.
So there are methods probably. There are Department of Interior white papers on stabilizing of brick, stabilizing of stone. There are possibly some applications that could be done to this in coatings that would help stabilize it. Carol knows about that stuff.
Well, there's also, and again, it would cost some money. There are architects and or engineers, and perhaps this engineering company could do it, that can make more specific, and I apologize for not having read the report, but may be more specific in terms of things to do other than just, you know, this generalized phase 1, 2, and 3. You know, what are you talking about things to do?
They inside the report,
They did that,
they have
right?
totally delineated what
Okay.
needed to be repaired. And if you read the report and you can see what they're talking about in terms of photos by the outside of the structure as well as the interior of the structure. So they have really narrowed it down to exactly what needs to be done and what needs to be repaired. And,
Is there a way, what you're talking about is this report?
Yeah.
And everybody, what I'm hearing is a lot of questions about what is in here, specifically what they said. And Tara says 35 pages.
It's
And
53, but yeah.
yeah, so how can we get what you think and what everybody thinks is the critical information in here for us to kind of have at hand without maybe having to publish all of that, republish it or something? Because I know that it would be worthwhile to have it at hand.
right now, this is just an introductory meeting to where we're headed and where we're going. When we come back for our meeting in March, hopefully you will have all read the report. It is on the Landmarks Commission website.
I don't want to read, I mean, I can read it on the Landmarks Commission site, but if I think we're here talking about it, it's important to have some of that, unless I'm going to sit there and take notes off of my computer or my phone. To have some of that information right in front of us, I think would be very helpful. It doesn't have to be all of it. That's what I'm saying. I think must be a few pages that, like the money page, like the one that says stabilization, what are the big issues? Stabilization and masonry, right? So where does it perhaps talk about that? In some kind of a summary or synopsis, there must be one on there.
Basically, there is, but it's extended through several pages.
Several pages I can handle, 35 or 50, no.
Well, some of them are pictures.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah, it's,
There you go.
and it does break down in the pictures, the problems of the tower, as you see, yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's a page of pictures. So even though it says 35 pages, it's relatively an easy read. It just goes through each bullet point on what needs to be fixed, so whoever's reading it understands what they're talking about.
Okay.
So I think that what might be necessary, and perhaps a subcommittee could do this, is, go through the 35 pages and try to outline the major issues and costs in a comprehensive way, or like, I just saw a historic structures report in my job, and, take that information and maybe summarize it a little bit so that it's more in terms of an outline, as these are the steps, so that then you can decide, well, which of these steps would we fund, or how do we go about it, if that's what we're going to recommend. I mean, it just sounds like we have a report that tells us what to do. The question is to convince the city to use the $600,000 toward doing what that report says, and or somehow coming up with additional funds, or taking things out of the report that would provide more stabilization of it for less money, to not do everything that's in the report, but that would stabilize it enough for the $600,000 and convince the city that that is appropriate action.
Well, at one of the council meetings, John Ladle did say that we could use the 600,000 towards our restoration, whatever.
Correct.
Looking at that summary phase one, at that point anyways, their budget basically fell within that 600,000, and that would stabilize. It says that it would be the top two levels, and they're outlining what would be fixed. I read something online just the other day. I believe some tuck pointing had already been done on some of the lower levels.
Yes.
So
$80,000.
So apparently the top levels would be the most critical to stabilize and save. And it looks like that would fall roughly within that budget already of the 600,000. So we'd have to, if that was stabilized, that would hopefully buy some more time to raise money to continue the restoration on the rest of it. It sounds like some of it's already been done on the lower levels. Was that part of the 80,000 that was put into it earlier?
But again, we don't have estimates from other masonry companies.
No, we do not.
No.
And that is something that we really need to do. Or that would be my recommendation at this point in time.
Yes, take that to council.
Any other suggestions?
Well, I think council's not going to be content to just know that they can get the thing stabilized for now for 600,000 because they know there are more costs coming down the road and there's got to be some kind of assurance that there's going to be more money available for the long haul. I presume that we or they don't have in mind just having a stabilization that will keep the thing from massively falling over. We'd like for it to look as close to what it is right now for the long term, not to say, well, it's safe to have some of these stones fall off. It'll look like crap, but it'll still be standing. I don't think that's the goal.
Probably not, but there was not maintenance prior. I mean, there has not been maintenance on that structure
Agreed,
for a long,
yes.
long time.
Agreed.
And in addition, I mean, if we look at the landmarks, the local landmarks in the city of Whitewater that are at risk, they are all owned by the city.
And for
The
that,
unfortunate thing is that, the maintenance, I know there's been budgetary concerns for a long time. We're in the throes of facing referendums and the possible establishment of a lake district where there's going to be tremendous amount of financial burden to the community. And this seems, at this point in time, when people look at this, as they did when they voted for the referendum, which again, I thought was poorly worded, they're looking at another financial burden. We're simply asking for donations. And there's no guarantee that anybody's going to donate. In addition, there's a possibility of us securing grants, but who knows if that's, if we could get grants. I think my suggestion would be the phased approach, and we know there's going to be continued maintenance forever. I mean, as long as the tower is standing.
One thing too, now speaking from a tourism standpoint, from my tourism cap here, it is a tourism draw for Whitewater. There's no doubt about that. And there are other tourism draws in every country. The Colosseum doesn't look like it did when it was built. The castles of England and Scotland and Ireland don't look like they did when they were built. They're still tourism draws. People go there. They don't expect to see it like it was when it was built. So as far as maintaining the look of it as it is now and never being deteriorated, that's not going to happen. It's going to deteriorate. The question is it going to deteriorate to the point where it's going to fall over? Probably not. It's 8 feet thick at the base, 4 feet thick at the top. There's 5 courses of stone. It's not going to just fall over. But you want to make sure that it's safe, people to view, and maintain it as a tourism draw for the city. I mean, we've torn down a lot of landmarks in the past. We don't want to tear this one down.
Can you help Dave to quantify the degree of tourism that we think
We can't.
occurs related to this?
There's no way to quantify it. There's no, there's no sensors on the building indicating how many people will come to view it. It'd be nice to have that, but we talked about that at some of our meetings. How can we quantify who comes to it? And we really can't at this point. There are questionnaires you could send out to people that are tourists. We're investing in some of the programs now in Tourism Council to quantify who comes to Whitewater. And some of those people do say because of the quaintness of the city or the architecture of the city, whether or not it's for the water tower or for the Hamilton House or whatever. We have a lot of things that draw people here just because we're unique in some ways. Unfortunately, we lost some of our, our big ones in the past, like the the spiritualists, the spirits, city, in the old city hall type of thing. But
So it seems to me that if the city doesn't have any money, which it doesn't, because again, there's other landmarks that are in trouble, and you're gonna get a divide in the city as to what landmarks to protect. Some people wanna protect the effigy mounds, some people wanna protect the fountains, so you're gonna have this war. So why can't we do something with the tower that generates money? It can be a museum. I mean, look, I printed this, look what they did with this tower. They put a little thing on it, they put a building on it, some windows in it. This one's got a glass elevator in it that goes to the top and around. I mean, seriously, you gotta make money and you gotta bring in people. So how do we do that? We can't just restore it. The people aren't gonna just wanna put money on it so it looks like something really nice, because it looks pretty nice now. A lot of people don't know about that. So how do we generate money to keep it forever?
Tower Fest.
Yeah, Tower Fest. Yeah, something. We gotta figure it out, because that way when we go to the city, we can say, yeah, it's gonna cost X number of dollars, but this is how we're gonna generate money to keep the repairs. Because again, I mean, I'm all for, one of my favorites is the fountain. And I mean, we can't even get a small little budget for that together for it. We couldn't even get flowers last year for its birthday. I mean, come on, people. I mean, this is pretty serious. Just saying.
It's okay, Gloria.
Hey, I'm passionate about it,
It's exactly the same argument that I heard, just talking about people telling them we're going to be part of this and what we're going to do. And right away that came up. Yes, but what about? And the fountain is a big one. I have to say, boy, what are you doing this for? It's still standing there, it's fine. But the fountain needs this, and this right away. So looking at what the tourism is and what you can do, because the fountain's right there, everybody sees it, it's just a big landmark part of the town. The water tower, you got to go out of your way a little bit to see. And that's why I think your idea of somehow talking about how to generate some revenue, is really quite important.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that, we have the chamber now, in the building that they are in now, into the white building. That's great, because now people will stop there, then they'll stop and they'll look at the fountain, and then, they'll take pictures. I know my guests went over there all the time and took pictures.
The page here where, with all these costs, that's what I was gonna say. When you look at the costs that are there, that doesn't address stabilization at all. It's not really in there, is it? Or is that included? It talks about the steel buried in the masonry at the top of the tower, remainder of the exterior, and then the interior. But where is there talking about stabilization?
The tower is stable.
Oh, I don't know. I heard people talking about
No,
stabilization.
The fourth
You're just talking about the masonry.
It's the masonry, it's the steel tank in the interior. And there are certain capstones that have fallen that need to be replaced. It could be hopefully quarried from the quarry here in town, where the original tower was quarried from. It's stable. It's in good condition. It's not going to fall over anytime soon. Probably not for another 100 years, but.
You could equate it to the pyramids of Egypt. The capstones they're gone. Off of those, it's still standing.
Right.
It's still standing, they're not gonna fall over.
Yeah, but you're not gonna go to the city in May and turn around and say, hey, it's stable, let's go.
Yes, we are.
Well, good luck with that. We're not listening.
No, I think that's an important point to go to the city and as part of our entire report, to say, first of all, there is no need to demolish it, whatever we decide.
That's right.
If you agree or not agree with what we're recommending, nothing's going to happen if you just leave it alone.
That's exactly
There's
right.
no, so that's probably number one paragraph in the report.
Absolutely.
It is stable, and if you want, just leave it alone
Mhm.
and keep the fence up. No,
Seriously.
seriously, that is absolutely the point, the first point,
Mhm.
because if it's a question of safety, build a bigger, put a bigger fence. That's not going to cost us much. It's not going to cost $600,000 to build a bigger fence. Take some of that money and, build a bigger fence. And then after that, preservation option number 1 would be thus and so, and then maybe preservation option number 2, thus and so. But yeah, that is the absolute first paragraph.
Absolutely, and that's why I gave you that first.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is stable. It is not going to fall down.
I think the city's worried too about liability, that's a big thing. But again, it's stable. The fence is doing its job, keeping people out. There's no danger of pieces falling off onto people because they're outside in the safe zone.
That's right. What if they don't want to do anything? Okay, then what can be done to protect it even more than it's protected now from whatever might happen?
Right.
Can the students get in there and climb it? No, if they can't get up that fence. Can we put razor wire on just to make sure the drunk students don't climb it? Well, no, I mean, it isn't an either or situation. This rush to say, well, we don't have a use for it anymore, so therefore, let's just tear it down and spend $600,000 to tear it down is crazy.
Yeah.
To me, that's just crazy.
I did want to also indicate to you that if you read the report, you will understand that the total figure encompasses what they consider putting up scaffolding. And to put up the scaffolding, if they did the repair all at once, would be in excess, or around, I guess I should say, $300,000 for the exterior. They would also have to put up scaffolding on the interior when they got to those repairs, if you were going to totally restore it. So that cost is really of, the $1 million is somewhat inflated in terms of the fact that a lot of it is going just for the scaffolding and not specifically for restoration and masonry repair. So we got to keep that in mind too.
I do want to be conscious of time. We do have about 12 minutes left. So I have a to-do list, which is to read the report that is available. And then I've started 1, 2, first one is, it's safe, don't touch it.
That's right.
The second one is phased restoration. I don't know if this is something that we want to flesh out today, or if this is something that we do with next meeting in March, after all of us have done this.
Right, yeah, that's the important key right there.
The other thing too with the interior, there's no point. I brought the question to the engineer that was presenting to city council years ago about this. And I asked him if, once the tower water tank is emptied, how much less stress does that put on the tower itself? He didn't know.
Actually, what I read somewhere was that the weight of the water actually helps to.
Because it compresses. Yeah, I read that too.
Right, but if you go to read the McEnroe report, they said that, basically that didn't matter at this point, that it would be safe without the water. So,
So where did the decision come to be knocking it down if it's safe and if you left it alone? Where did that all come about?
Because it was decommissioned. It was decommissioned as a water tower, and therefore it transferred, and correct me if I'm wrong, it transferred from the City Water Commission to the Parks and Rec Department. So it's under the auspices of the Parks and Rec Department because it's located in a park. But because it was decommissioned, they viewed it as having no further use other than to be
I will also,
a structural landmark in the city of Whitewater, and a very significant one.
I will also say, I believe the Public Works Director, Brad Marquardt, I believe he had applied for some sort of grant, which is how we got the $600,000. I think that's, no?
No, there's no grant. The $600,000 is the estimate of what it would cost to demolish it.
Okay.
And that amount can be charged to the water utility if it's demolished.
Okay. This all transpired before I got to the city, but I knew that there was a caveat there.
So we can't use that, so let me just get that, we can't use the 600,000 to restore it?
You can.
I think there's
You
been an
can, right?
expectation
Okay.
that that could be used.
It can.
And of course, the reality is that number was developed several years ago now, so the cost of demolishing is probably higher than 600 now.
Just so you know, Lynn Binney used to be on the city council, so he has a great deal of expertise. And also, so you know, Carol Cartwright works for the Wisconsin Historical Society Department of Preservation, or SHPO, the Preservation Department. So we have two really key people here, and of course Dave with his tourism experience. So we've got a lot of good, solid input, and Lynn can correct us when we go off track, and certainly Carol can give us great suggestions about, restoration. So
I really think trying to get at what caused the question maybe is more related to my comment about, well, we can't have it looking like crap. But now Dave says, well, the Coliseum that I saw actually a couple of years ago, yeah, I guess I didn't really feel like it looked like crap.
There you go.
There was a lot missing, a whole lot missing, but it still was an artifact that was worth seeing.
They're famous statues without heads and arms. It still does say that.
And I suppose from Carol's perspective as being president of the Historical Society, isn't that our largest artifact?
Yeah, probably is. It is an artifact. And it depends on your idea. I still hear from people, they tore down City Hall, and that was in 1970. I think there's emotional, and we all do have there are issues with money right now, and there are issues that the city has that are maybe more important for certain, but there are emotional things that people have with these structures. We just had our program was a Whitewater Recollects schools, the high schools. And it was great, the outpouring. We could probably do a Whitewater Recollects landmarks, or something. But anyway, so I just think that it to your point, it doesn't have to be perfect either. There's restoration for use, like what Fort does, where they let people walk in and whatever. And there's stabilization, which keeps it from the stones from falling off. And then there's all sorts of things in the middle. So that's, yeah.
I'd like to say, so I think this is where we need to start, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
All of us reading the report, and I think Carol's idea is exactly right, is we just decide of the things that could be done, which ones do we think really should be done, but I also think in the background, not necessarily to address right away, but let's keep in our background what is the argument we're going to make, or what kind of ammunition can we put together to basically, I remember when I went in to try to get money for the Bassett House one time from Jim Coburn, and he said, well, why is the Bassett House relevant? And I've been working ever since on making the Bassett House relevant to the community. Let's keep that in mind. It's not something that should be in the forefront of our brains at the next meeting, but let's keep that in mind. It's something to percolate and figure out, a statement. Something somewhere in our recommendation needs to be something that's directed to what you were talking about, whether we can raise money there, what it means to the community. That emotional and sort of community investment in it, I think we need to do that as well, although it's not number one. But keep it on the back burner of your brain, because I think by the time we get to the end, we're gonna need to have some sort of abatement in that area. But it's not number one. We gotta do this other stuff first. But just let it percolate in your brain between now and when we finalize the report.
And just to add to that, there is a very emotional element from the citizens of Whitewater that have been here, counties, okay, that particular phrase. And when the vote was taken, it was interesting. I wonder how many of those people that voted really don't live here. They're not citizens of Whitewater. They happen to be college students, for example. So I'm looking at from that reference point, but everyone that I've talked to and associate with feels that it needs to be left alone.
Actually, when you take the students out, the results were even a little less positive.
Yeah.
It came to
Yes.
57.7% against if you take the student population.
Yeah, again, I still attribute it to the wording.
The wording.
That
I agree.
that either or, that was a false dichotomy. But anyway, so let's all just keep the relevancy question in the back of our head and let it percolate.
Good point, Linda.
And I think the idea of maybe how do we market it?
Right.
How do we maybe make some money? I don't know, but there's gotta be some ideas out there.
The Landmarks Commission is working on that.
Ah, super.
Should work together with tourism on that.
Yeah.
kind of
We
marketing.
could have a water tower fun run that
No,
starts.
we're gonna have
Tower
we're gonna have
Fest.
Tower Fest.
Tower
Yeah.
Fest.
Yeah, seriously.
And on that
5K.
note, we've run out of time.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. Our next meeting will be the first Wednesday in March. And if you would please read the McEnroe report, that would be wonderful. And also take the time in your busy schedules to also read the nomination for the,
Yeah.
so you have the history of the water tower, which is
We've
really
got homework, everybody.
Yes, you do.